Hello, hello. This is Chris and Rick Talk Guitars. That's Chris over there.
Hello.
And I'm Rick. And today we're going to talk about favorite pedals.
Oh, boy.
Yours, mine, whoever's favorite pedals.
Who doesn't love pedals?
I know.
Some people.
Well, yeah. Some people hate pedals. We'll talk about that too. But Chris and I like pedals. I like pedals. What's your favorite pedal?
My favorite pedal, it's kind of hard to say because I have different types of favorite pedals. And I should start this off by saying I go through long periods of where I don't give a shit about a pedal. I don't want a pedal. I don't want anything between my guitar and my amp.
Uh-huh.
But realistically, if I'm doing a lot of playing, I have to have like a couple of pedals. And one of the pedals is a Tube Screamer, which I guess you could say that must make it one of my favorite pedals.
Uh-huh.
And if someone gave me 20 Tube Screamers, I'd be happy. But a Tube Screamer isn't that much fun. A phase shifter is much funner.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had a few of those. So phase shifters are one of my favorite pedals, I should say.
Cool.
And and it's kind of ironic because I never use them for anything like live or for recording.
That's pretty funny.
But I like them. I don't know. It's
interesting.
Weird. It is interesting, isn't it? Fascinating.
Fascinating. I think so. The fact that you dig the pedals and monkeying around with them, but don't really find a use for them within your material or.
I find use for them all the time around the house.
Yeah.
And in recordings. I've used them in recordings.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I like the organy kind of effect that they give. And I have a few of them. And I think if I were going to become a pedal collector, I think that might be my angle. I might say, I'm going to collect phase shifters.
Nice.
But I'm not a pedal collector, and I don't collect phase shifters, but I've managed to amass a few of them.
Got it.
And one of them being the Holy Grail. I see you're looking at that. Rick is looking at my Holy Grail phase shifter right now, which is the...
Oh, I love that thing.
It's the... What is it? The Maestro PS1A.
It's so cool.
That's the Alex Lifeson phaser that a good friend of mine got for me.
It looks like it should be on the set of Mr. Rogers, doesn't it? Like...
It should be everywhere.
It's so freaking awesome.
Or on the bridge of
the Enterprise.
Yeah.
No, that is a cool phaser, and it sounds amazing, and I love the way it looks. It's like it's as big as 4 pedals combined, but it's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
It's my favorite. I think it is my favorite pedal of all my pedals that I have. Now, what's your favorite pedal?
Of the ones I have, I'd have to say, you know what? I'm partial to this old Boss D digital delay. It's a DD2.
Cool. Yeah, I like those.
And because when I was looking for a delay, I wanted something that would give me more milliseconds than just your standard analog would back then and stuff. And that digital delay did that. And at the time it was digital, quote, I'm using quotes, but it still sounded kind of warm and analog. Yeah. So I kind of dug it.
Those are collectible.
And I still have that damn thing, and I dig that thing. And I'm a sucker for a wah. I just am,
Mm-hmm.
And I never overuse them, but for the longest time, that was like a mainstay. I always had a wah if I did have a board. I go through phases where it's like, I just want to plug in. It's just, I don't want to do any of this other crap.
Right.
But then there's other times, depending on what I'm doing, where I have a whatever size board and for
the wah. Let's talk about the wah for a moment because that's another effect that I really like.
Yeah.
And I never had one for years and years and years, and probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I said I need to get a wah, and so I got one, just a Dunlop Crybaby from the 80s, I think, and I played on it around the house, and this is kind of fun. And then I kind of like went down a wah rabbit hole. And I ended up with a Thomas organ, like late 70s Thomas organ with it's got a stack of dimes inductor, which is like nerd speak for one of the desirable inductors that kind of give the wah its voice. And I fucking love that thing. It's never been live. I don't really use it, but I dig it out a lot, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I like the wah for doing like the cocked wah, just getting kind of like nasally sounds and different textures and vocally sounds, and not so much for the chunka porn.
Yeah,
but no, wah is one of my favorite. I'm not going to have a favorite pedal because every time we talk about one, I'm going to go, oh, that's my favorite pedal.
Exactly. So, and I can see you using it that way, more texturally than the waka waka.
Oh yeah, I brought it to a Riff Brokers practice.
That's cool.
A while back, and I just tried it in the context of several songs. And if it was on my live board, there's at least 2 or 3 songs in the set that we're doing now where I would use it. I would just like cock it to a certain point, and it just kind of punches out this nasally, like, almost Mick Ronson-y kind of like tone. And so it would definitely be usable, but I'm not going to stick it on my board. because it just opens up a whole new can of worms. You need like the wah pedal suffers. It's a vintage one, so it suffers from that, that tone suck they call it. It's not bad at all if you put it after the tuner with a buffer in the tuner. So it would have to move a bunch of pedals out and do all this other bullshit. So I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm just going to enjoy it around the house.
Yeah, just leave it on its own and have fun with it.
So how many pedals do you have on your current board right now as we speak?
I've probably got close to 10.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that's actually not a lot for, if you like look online, look at some people's pedal boards.
Yeah, because I'm doing some U2 tribute thing where I'm trying to be the edge, and so I've got all these things on that I normally would never play.
You're going to need a rack mount too.
I'm going to need a rack mount.
So let's see, I just added one pedal to my board, which required me to add two because I had one of them, it's in a true bypass loop, so there's a bypass loop. So how many's on there right now?
You've got 8 on there.
I've got 8, okay. Yeah. And one of them's just a loop pedal.
Oh, got it.
And that's my practice board. There's 3 on that one. And my practice, or not my practice, I should say for rehearsals, because it fits in the backpack. Okay. And that's just a tube screamer, a delay, and a boost on the end, which I'll swap out sometimes with a reverb pedal. But I go back and forth, like I said. Right now, the last few weeks, I've kind of been into pedals. So I've been like... spend a lot of time dorking around online looking at them. So how many vintage pedals do you have, would you say?
I've got only a couple. Like I got that digital delay. I've got that chorus that you borrowed, which is cool. I think I might have a couple others, but I can't remember them offhand.
Oh, yeah, you have a blue CS2, the Boss.
Yep. The Boss compressor, yeah.
That's a good pedal. Too. I like that. That's been on my board.
And a Dynacomp, too.
Okay, I have that one, too. Yeah. So, those are good vintage pedals, and... I like both the Dynacomp and the Boss CS2. The CS2 is really great for Telecasters, and that whenever I'm playing my Tele, I always have that on.
Very cool.
Because it does great things with that Tele's bridge pickup.
And the thing I love about those Boss pedals, those old ones, is they were built to last, for God's sake. Those pedals are 30 years old, easy, and they work, they function properly, and they're fine. Yeah. Nothing's wrong with them at all.
I like them. I like the ones that I like a lot. There's a lot of Boss. They made a shit ton of pedals, and there's some of them that I don't really care about.
Right.
But I think that's funny that there's a lot of people that just hate them. They're like
it's ridiculous.
Why would you play a Boss pedal when you can have a boutique pedal? It's like
because they sound great and they last forever.
Well, some of them they made do sound really good. I love that. I have one of the. What is that? DM2 delay.
Oh, yeah.
That pedal sounds great. Yeah. It's like one of the best non-tape sounding echoes I've ever heard.
They did it right, man. And I think most of their pedals sound fine. They sound great. I mean, and a lot of the boutique pedals, like we talk about, are either they stole a circuit from somebody or they they use components that are cheap that give out and they break and. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad that the industry exists because, as I've said before, it makes vintage pedals are extremely reasonable, except for there's a few that are really collectible that get pricey. But if you just want a good sounding pedal for kind of to collect, like if you wanted to collect like MXR or old DoD. Like the first run DoDs.
That's true.
I mean, I've gotten those for, not a whole lot of money, and they're super cool. Yeah. I mean, I may not even use them all the time, but I mean, for recording, or sometimes you just want something to inspire you to come up with a part. Yeah. I mean, you compare, you could get 3 vintage, like DoDs for the price of like one boutique pedal that, I don't know. I'm not down on boutique. No. I just... The way I get down on boutique pedals is that I think there's a lot of like bullshit marketing that goes with them that as long as people are being rational, I don't think it's a problem. But I think sometimes they tend to perpetuate like myths that keep them in the pedal industry, like making money, which is kind of a shitty thing. I think there's some really cool people in there. We've talked about that dude. JHS Pedals. I love that dude.
I dig that guy too.
I love his vibe. I love his take. He's very knowledgeable, and he's like totally no bullshit. It's not like he's not a pedal woo peddler. He's like, this is what it is. He had a great episode talking about Behringer pedals, and his whole point was like, if you've always wanted to try this really expensive pedal here, get this. You can get it for $10,
That's
and it'll
cool.
give you the sound of that pedal, so you can check it out.
That's so cool.
And I mean, he doesn't push his pedals.
Yeah.
So that dude is great.
And I think you're right. I mean, the only time I really kind of my hackles get up is when people start to badmouth like Boss pedals, for instance, or these pedals that we've come to use, and they're mainstays in people's boards. And it's like, no, I've cracked the code, and this is an improvement on that, or this is a better pedal, or whatever. And it's like, well, these pedals have stood the test of time, and people are using them, and it's fine. You may have, your pedals probably, it's cool and people dig it. You have an audience for your stuff. That's cool, but you don't need to badmouth all this other stuff anyway. But yeah, so I think, I agree. And go ahead.
No, in the end, they're just pedals.
Yeah.
I mean, what is coming out of your amp? Do you suck? I mean, a pedal's not going to save you.
Well, that's a whole other issue.
And that's one thing that I find interesting, because I've run across this over the years, is people who and this happened a lot, like in the 80s, in the 70s. It was like guitar players would say, "I'm not into pedals. I think they're a crutch. People use them for to hide their bad playing." I don't know of any pedal that hides bad playing.
Right. It might it might enhance.
You have like a doubled bad playing because you have a delay on there or something. I don't think it really. I mean, it's in the end, it's like what garbage in, garbage out,
right,
or whatever. So they're fun. I think. I don't think there's any harm in them. They're fun, and they get you to interact with your gear more, and you can learn about if I move this pedal over here, it sounds better.
Yeah.
Why does that sound better? And you learn about buffers and all this other shit. But I just have a low threshold for pedal woo or marketing bullshit.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of fucking shit done. I've talked about this before, and I'm sure people are getting sick of it. But I don't think an Ibanez fucking tube screamer needs a hole drilled in it with a switch on it, because the chances are the amount of badness that stock pedal is doing to your sound is not worth what you just did to that pedal.
Right.
I mean, focus elsewhere. If you sound like shit, focus elsewhere, because it's not going to be that. I can guarantee it. I mean,
I love it.
And that's what goes back to that thing. There were people that promoted that did that performed that service. They promoted that, and even when science came out and said, you know what, true bypass isn't the end all be all. There's other things at work here, and the whole guitar playing community is getting on board now, and people know, they have armed themselves with knowledge, and some people are still happy to kind of, well, why don't you get me that pedal, and I'll put a true bypass on there for you, and $50, and you'll have a better pedal. You won't have a better pedal.
No,
you'll have a worse pedal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just my opinion, but it's not just pedals or guitar or anything. It's like I like rational thinking, but I have to temper that with being a guitar player and being somewhat superstitious. I like the old stuff. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
I like I open up an old pedal and see these carbon composite resistors and these old caps, and I just go, ooh, magic. So I get some of this, but I do know that there might be something about these components that will make it sound different. A lot of times it's not for the better. They'll be out of tolerance and they drift. But I don't know. I think you can have fun being superstitious and still arm yourself with knowledge and not waste any money or steer people wrong.
Exactly. I think that's a great way to put it.
Another thing for me, when it comes to this kind of shit, is embrace being wrong. At least if I'm wrong and I can correct myself, from that point forward I can be right.
There you go.
So when it comes to pedal woo and all this other shit, I may have in the past stuck to something, and then I found out, wait, you know what? The science is in. It's not really what's going on here. So make an adjustment, and it's cool.
That's cool.
But we're talking about pedals.
No, vaccinations.
Okay.
No, pedals. Well, there are some people who don't like pedals at all.
Right.
They just want to go guitar, amp, which is totally cool. I dig that, because that's
because pedals are just used to cover up bad playing.
Oh, right. And these are the people that use the clip-on tuners, and which is cool. They're cool too, but it's just fascinating to me that there are just stalwarts. I'm
kind of on their side, because if you can play, I love the sound of guitar and an amp. That's in a way, anything between that is a distraction.
Yeah.
It's so fun to have little distractions. So I love pedals.
Yeah.
There again, if you're just going to be adamant, like you can't do anything without, you're just like ruining things. You know how much music has been made with pedals and without pedals.
Yeah.
So talk about bands that like are pedal centric bands. You mentioned U2. I mean, without take away their pedals and they're going to be a totally different band.
That's the foundation of their sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all effects and echoes and crazy stuff. And he uses it to such good effect. Or like David Gilmour, like you were saying. I mean, it's just beautiful stuff. Like the stuff that he's put on his guitar is just it's tone and it's dripping and it's just really cool.
My Bloody Valentine, that was a band from the 90s that they were very hugely, pedals were a huge part of their sound, and they were very, they did really well, that band did. And then there's people like I keep thinking of the 90s now that, that were so into like one specific pedal that they went out and they collected them all, like Jay Mascis from Dinosaur Jr. was like, the Big Muff guy. And he's got like a library of, not a lending library, but a library.
I'd like to go there and see that museum.
Totally.
Cool.
Have you played Big Muffs much?
I have over my years, and every time I do, they're just so fun, right? Because
they're really fun.
You punch that button and you just get this explosion of fuzz and cool. Yeah, I totally see the attraction.
And there's a whole like giant rabbit hole for I'm just going to focus on the Big Muff, and you can go down for days. There's websites out there. And the cool thing about Big Muffs is there was a bunch of different versions of them, and even the same versions will sound different because of the way they were constructed. They're really cool. I happened to, like a few years ago, I had in my possession for a time, I had a Ram's Head, which is one of the early Big Muffs, and the one that I have now is a 79 op amp. It has a different type of thing that gives you the distortion. It was transistor, and then there was a chip operational amplifier. And I had there was a company that made boutique pedals, one of the first companies that Way Huge they were called. I had one of their first issue of the Swollen Pickle, which I guess was supposed to be based off of Big Muff, and those are all really collectible pedals, and I set them up and listened to them and kind of played with them together, and it's really cool. And the thing that shocked me was my second favorite was the one that I own now, was the op amp one. Oh. That it has a distinct sound over the transistor one. The op amp is the one that Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, he made his sound, and he probably collected 1 billion of them. But I was kind of shocked myself at how much I liked that one in the context of the Ram's Head.
Right.
The Ram's Head was way more like, it's going to be a really annoying word. It was organic. It's the best way to explain it.
I don't think that's annoying.
It just responded to the guitar in a way that was like a little bit more real, organic than the other ones did. Both of the Big Muffs, to me, that what struck me, because I hadn't played them in years, probably since the 70s, was that they're very amp-like in the way that they interact with the guitar, and that's what a lot of fuzz pedals can't get for some reason.
Yeah.
Is they sound like it, and if you're standing over there and I'm playing, you go, that sounds the same to me, but you pick up the guitar and play, and it's completely different because you're feeling the way it reacts. Yeah. And the Swollen Pickle, that version is actually really collectible now. It didn't come close to either of those. And I don't know if maybe it's not the same circuit. Yeah. But both of the Electro Harmonics just like smoked that. Yeah. And I ended up with one of them. So
that's cool.
I love them.
Yeah. I have played many Big Muffs over the years, and every time they're fun. That's a fun pedal because it makes you feel like you've got this crazy weapon, and you energize this button, and it's just like this big crazy sound, and it sustains forever, and it's a blast to turn those things on. Those are fun pedals to play with.
Oh, and all these pedals that we're talking about, one way to look at it is there's songs in those pedals. Yeah. If you step on the pedal and everything's right, you're in the right mood, the right frame of mind, and you hit the right guitar and the right amp, and you're going to get a song out of it, and that's really cool. And then it's kind of cool, you take the song and you play it in the context with the pedals gone, and you have something that, maybe it's not actually part of the song per se, but it brought you to that moment to get that, and that's super cool. Yeah. What's the pedal that I've been? I love even exploring pedals that are really hard to love, like the chorus pedal. Yeah. We've been talking about those, and that's why I borrowed Rick's chorus pedal, because I recently got a chorus pedal that I had when I was a kid, because I kind of got this thing where I collect shit that I had when I was a kid. But I got a DOD mini chorus from like, I think it's from 82 or 81. And had one as a kid. It's been gone for years and years, and I started dicking around with that. And my first thought was like, this would be a really hard pedal to bust out at a show, because everybody would start screaming, "No, not the '80s!" But I found that if you use the chorus pedal with a little tremolo, you can get a really good Univibe sound.
Sweet,
because the Univibe had that liquidy kind of thing to it, and a phase shifter doesn't by itself, and a tremolo pedal doesn't by itself. But you start to combine.
That's kind of cool.
And and what I learned from comparing your Boss CE2 to the DoD Mini Chorus, they're both cool pedals, but the Boss is like the one you step on, you go, oh my god,
really? It's
so lush, and it is that sound.
That's
but
cool.
it's just like 3-dimensional and wraps around you. Where the DoD is just a little more. It's almost like a phaser-y sounding. It's just like kind of more one-dimensional. Very usable though. I mean, you just use it in a different way. And chorus is so hard to use anyways. Any way you can find, good luck to it.
It is, really, but that's cool to know, because I haven't played through that pedal in ages. But now I kind of want to do it just for kicks, yeah. Because I used the shit out of that thing in the 80s for sure. That was one of my foundational elements to my
DoD,
sound back there. Yeah, it was like, yeah, but and listening back to those recordings, yeah, I can say, God, just give it a rest. At least for one song, just give it a rest.
My DoD, I was playing in a band that was doing these shows opening before a Holiday Inn band. It was called Back Bar Blowout, and there was a bar in the back of the Holiday Inn, and then there's the stage in the front of the Holiday Inn. Like they were kind of connected, but there was a curtain between them. And what we'd do is we'd play, warm up the crowd, and then the Holiday Inn band would come on and do 3 sets later that night.
That's awesome.
And the dude in the opening band came over, the guitar player, and said, "Hey, anybody want to buy a chorus pedal?" And I'm like, "How much?" And he's like, $20. And I had $20, and I'm like, "Sure." So I bought it. And I'm like, "What do you do with this thing?" And he goes, "You're in a 3-piece band. You just step on it and it makes you sound like there's 2 guitar players." So I took him at his word, and for probably the next 2 years, I played with that chorus
until somebody came up and said, "Hey, dude,
it's 1989. It's time to turn it off."
Oh, that's hilarious.
But no,
that's funny. He saw you coming, man.
And the other thing with being in Pedalhead is I started finding myself wanting to make things, it started from, I have a cupboard full of pedals that have kind of broken over the years, and I kind of throw them in there because they can't be on my live board if they're acting up. And spring is here, so I'm like, time to get the pedals fixed. So I got out the soldering iron and kind of troubleshot everything and got things working. And I'm like, I fixed one of the pedals, which was a Lowly Electro-Harmonix, what is it? The LPB1 Power Booster, super cheap. You get them for like $30, and it's just a simple 1-transistor boost circuit. And I liked it, but it kept breaking, so I fixed it for the last time. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make one of these. How hard can it be? So I ordered the parts, and I made one, and I did it all without a circuit board. So everything's just like point to point on a terminal strip. So it's if the switch holds out, which is for me is always the weakest part, it'll be golden for a long time. And while making that pedal, I'm like, maybe I'll make a couple more pedals.
That's cool.
I like dirt simple circuits that you can mount on terminal strips. I don't like dealing with like really complex things.
Yeah.
I found that a lot of pedals are like amps for me, that the less, the simpler they are, the better they sound. I don't know why that is. I mean, look at that phase shifter there, that PS1A. You just plug your guitar in, and there's 3 giant organ switches, just like slow, medium, fast.
That's all you need, man.
And it sounds really good.
I'm the same way. Like, I could never get into those Mesa Boogie Mark amps in the 80s. There's just too much going on. It's like I could, I'm the same.
Or try to program one of those pedals where you have to fucking scroll through that.
Yeah.
No way.
That's maddening. Simple is
I'll
better.
do something else with my life.
I agree completely. Well, I think pedals are awesome. They're fun. They help you get more into your gear and hopefully inspire you. And I think I'm revisit. It's cool because now I'm revisiting pedals that I haven't played in a while, like this chorus or like that Echo, for instance. I hadn't played that Echo for a long time, so it's kind of fun to get back into those things and discover, the inspiration that they might have provided me back then. Because they did. They were, as I recall, they were inspiring. I mean, I was trying to dial in sounds on the chorus and dial in delay settings on the thing and blah blah blah, and yeah, it was cool and inspiring. So yeah.
Cool. So right now, you mentioned you're doing the YouTube thing. So how many delays do you have?
Well, I've got one delay.
Just one delay?
It's the Boss DD550 or something, but they've got, you can have like mega presets and banks.
Okay,
and all
so that's
that
one
stuff.
that you do have to dick around.
Exactly. Yeah, and to your point, it's a pain in the butt because you have to go in there and it's not super user friendly, but it works. It works for what I need to do because I was faking it with that one DD2 for a while, like between songs, kind of like monkeying with it, and it wasn't happening. So I needed just.
What was his big delay? What did he use?
There's some digital delay. Yeah, he started out with I think he was using
Electro Harmonix like.
Yeah, Memory Man.
Yeah.
And then I think there's this one digital delay. I forget what the number is, but that's what is another seminal delay that he used in the 80s when he switched to this digital delay. But he's insane because he'll use multiple delays at once.
That's just too much math for me. I'd love to be able to do what he does just to see experience it.
Yeah.
But I've tried at times. I'm like, I don't have a slide rule.
Oh my God.
I can't figure it out. One thing that's interesting, we're talking about the chorus pedal. And you know how I say it's a hard pedal to, as soon as you hear it, you're like, yeah, no, don't do that. What you're doing there, don't do that.
Yeah.
I think just because it was probably overused in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
What I think, and this is just my one man's opinion, is what that effect is now today, that down the road is people are going to say the same thing, is that fucking modulated delay that you hear. It sounds like an indie movie soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Like that really lush. Every time I hear that, I'm just like, oh, please. I love like dirty, like grungy delays that are just like really simple.
I agree.
But at the same time, I don't like that modulated, ethereal, and it's a beautiful sound.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I think it's that thing where it's been done to death.
Yeah.
You can't watch an indie movie soundtrack where someone doesn't turn that fucking delay on, and you're like, please.
Yeah.
So I wonder. It'd be interesting. I hope I'm still around.
I hope you are too, Chris.
I'm going to buy one of those little pedals then, and I'm going to see if it has that effect.
No, that's a good point, and that's a good. We might have to talk about that in one of our upcoming things. Is like these signature sounds that are known for a certain time period and how they've either held up or not, or what we think in terms of held up or not. Right.
And one thing that was always interesting too was country music was like just a generation behind, because like in the 80s, when everybody graduated in rock and pop to the chorus pedal, they found the phase shifter.
Right.
So all that, all that country music was using phase shifter, and then I think they went to chorus pedal maybe the next year. I don't know, but it was weird. I think there's a documentary in there somewhere.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
Search for whatever the fuck Chris is talking about.
Yes, totally. Yeah. I hear you.
Well, that was great.
I loved it. I had fun.
All right.
It wasn't excruciating. I liked it.
Okay.
Cool. Well, as always, thanks for listening out there. We love you guys. Gals, people, dogs, cats, mice, whoever. Check us out on social media. Like us. Give us good ratings. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on all the neat little podcast places. Just thanks for listening. Chris, you got anything?
Just thanks for listening.
Yeah. Amen. All right.
Go play with your pedals.
Do it.
Bye.
Bye.